Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, June 1st, 2021. My name is Karen Bodenschatz. I serve as Associate Pastor at First Lutheran Church in Onalaska, Wisconsin, and this is my morning musing. I'm going to just take another sip of coffee and then we'll keep going. So my brain has been all over the place this morning, as is not unusual, but I've been thinking a lot about May 31st, both as Memorial Day and as the anniversary of the Tulsa race massacre. I don't know about you all, but I had never heard about this event from 1921. Never. I didn't learn about it in school. I didn't hear about it in high school or college. Nowhere did I hear about it until I think it was about 5 years ago, when one of my standby, my go-to podcasts called Stuff You Missed in History Class did an episode on it. And I was both astonished and horrified that we had never known about this event that happened on May 31st, 1921. So I'm going to tell you the story. I'm sure you've heard something in the last few days, as it has now. It's been 100 years. But in Oklahoma in 1921, after World War II, there were two things going on. The first was that it was booming. There was all sorts of new industries popping up, and people were making money hand over fist, and things were really good in Oklahoma. The other thing that we see happening all over our country in 1921 after World War II is a rise in race issues. Like there was an increase in segregation again. The KKK became prominent again. Racial tensions were very much a part of our country after World War II. And so, which I want to say probably isn't unusual in countries that are just coming out of war, as we try to figure out who we are and who we can trust. It's not the way it should be, but I think that's kind of normal. But there was a district in Tulsa that was largely was all black. And so that was part of the segregation. They just were segregated into neighborhoods. This was called the Greenwood District, and things were good there. So good, in fact, they were the center of financial wellness for the black community all across our country. They were called the Black Wall Street. It's where you would go to get money, get loans, get rich. It was thriving in amazing ways. Until May 31st, 1921, when a black man got on an elevator, and the elevator operator was a white woman. And for reasons we do not know, she screamed at some point. He fled, which I don't blame him, and was later arrested. The Tulsa paper published a front page story that accused him of sexually assaulting this woman. And that did not go over well. And so white men from Tulsa, go to the jail to demand that the sheriff release this man so that they may lynch him. The sheriff refuses, and he, in fact, puts a guard on him, like guards to guard him. When the black folks of Greenwood heard this, there was a group of men that went to the jail to help protect this man. The sheriff didn't allow it. They left. The mob of white people grew even bigger and began to become armed. This alarmed the black men, and so around 10 o'clock that night, they went back to the jail to try to protect this young man. And in the midst of that, tensions rise, shots were fired. And that really is the beginning of this, what was called the race riot and now is called the race massacre. That mob of white people go to the Greenwood District. Some of them had been deputized and given weapons, and they start killing black people, and they start burning their homes. About 1,256 homes were burned down. Another 215 were looted. And people were killed. There was also in that same paper reports of insurrection by the Black Tulsans, which was not true. But it fueled the flames of the tensions that were happening there in Tulsa. And that is when the killing and the looting and the burning started. The National Guard was called in around noon the next day, but by that time it was pretty much over. That morning, more people from Tulsa, white people from Tulsa, go to the Greenwood district and start looting homes and businesses, including women. In the days to follow, the young man is released. Charges were dropped. He leaves Tulsa and is never heard from again. And we begin to see a cover-up. The black people of Greenwood are blamed. It's labeled a race riot. The newspaper, however this happens, I'm not quite sure, but the newspaper got rid of the story that they originally posted. The police and the government got rid of all documents pertaining to this event. And it wasn't until the early 2000s that some of those documents were recovered, and we can see what's happening or what had happened to cover up this particular event, which is the worst race event in our history, the bloodiest. Because what we know, instead of the 36 people that were dead that the commission that was followed up this event said were dead, there was actually more like 3,000 or 300 people dead, Black people dead. We've learned how horrifying it is. Stories have been collected from survivors about what it was like for them. But that's why we don't know about it. It was covered up. But I think it's important for us to think about that and to think about what happened and the ways that tensions were risen, and take that as a lesson for us today. And so that's what I've been thinking about a lot. I was thinking about it yesterday, thinking about it this morning, and how we can take the lessons that were learned from 1921, and of course ever since then, and begin to change our country for good. So I hope you learned something today. I hope that gives you some food for thought today. This went a little long, but I think it's important enough to go long. So dear ones, be well, be kind, for Christ is with you.